Vampire King's daughter suffered every day until new Maid found something horrifying in her hair. Little Lucia sat perfectly still in the ancient chair. Her small hands turned white from gripping so hard. Tears filled her violet eyes, but she wouldn't let them fall. She'd learned not to cry. Crying changed nothing in a castle full of immortals. The healer's hands were shaking. She stood in the moonlit chamber staring at the head of little Lucia. What she saw made her drop everything. Silver instruments clattered across the floor like thunder. The sound echoed off the stone walls. Behind them both, a tall figure in black robes stumbled backward. The Vampire King. A creature who ruled for 1,000 years. A being who feared nothing. But his face went pale as death. Paler than any vampire should ever look. His mouth opened but no sound came out. He stared at his daughter like he was seeing her for the very first time. And what he saw destroyed him. But let me tell you how we got here. This story will break your heart and then it will put it back together again. Before we continue, let us know in the comment section what time it is and where you are watching from. And remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the story. Now let's continue. Lucia was 10 years old when everything changed. But she'd been invisible her whole life. She lived in a fortress so massive it had its own weather. Towers that pierced the clouds. Halls that went on forever. Carved from obsidian stone that swallowed light. Rooms filled with 1,000 years of treasure. Tapestries showing ancient battles. Chandeliers dripping with crystal. Paintings of vampire lords turned to dust centuries ago. Gold coins in languages nobody spoke anymore. Weapons from forgotten wars. It was the kind of place that should feel like a fairy tale. Instead, it felt like a beautiful prison. Her father owned all of it. Augustus Nero. The Vampire King. He didn't just rule vampires. He commanded them. Entire clans bowed when he entered a room. He'd lived 1,000 years and survived wars that erased kingdoms. His power was absolute. His word was law. When he spoke, immortals listened. When he was angry, they trembled. Mortals whispered his name like a curse. Vampires whispered it like a prayer. But none of that power could save him from his own grief. And none of it protected the lonely child living in his shadow. The fortress stood on the Black Mountain for 1,000 years. Maybe longer. Nobody remembered anymore. It was carved from obsidian stone that never reflected the sun. The walls were so thick that sound got lost inside them. The towers were so tall that clouds wrapped around them like cold fingers. Inside, everything was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Chandeliers hung from ceilings painted with scenes of ancient battles. Floors were made of marble so polished you could see your reflection like a ghost beneath your feet. Tapestries showed the faces of vampire lords who turned to dust centuries ago. The throne room was the coldest room of all. The throne itself was carved from a single piece of black stone. It sat at the end of a hall so long that a child's voice couldn't reach from one end to the other. This was where Augustus Nero ruled the vampire clans. But he barely sat on that throne anymore. 10 years ago everything changed. 10 years ago, Augustus broke every law his kind ever made. He fell in love with a human woman. Her name was Serafina. She had silver hair that caught moonlight like water. She had a laugh that made the cold halls feel warm. She wasn't afraid of him. She saw the man under the monster. The vampire court hated it. They whispered behind closed doors. They said it was unnatural. They said it would bring a curse. They said no good could come from mixing immortal blood with mortal blood. Augustus didn't care. He married her anyway. For 3 years the fortress felt different. There was music. There were flowers in the windows. There was something the old stones hadn't felt in centuries. There was love. Then Serafina got pregnant. The vampire healers warned them. They said a human body couldn't survive carrying a half-vampire child. They said the baby would drain her life force. They said she had to choose. Augustus begged her to end the pregnancy. Serafina refused. She said their daughter was worth everything. She said love was always worth the cost. She died the same night Lucia was born. She held her baby girl for 17 minutes. She whispered a name. She touched the child's silver hair. Then her heart stopped beating. Augustus screamed so loud that windows shattered in 12 rooms. He held his wife's body until the sun came up and he had to retreat into the shadows. The vampire court didn't say "we told you so" out loud. They didn't have to. Their eyes said it for them. The whispers started that same night. Cursed blood. Cursed child. An abomination that killed its own mother. Augustus never recovered. He stopped appearing at court gatherings. He stopped taking meals in the Great Hall. He ruled through written edicts delivered by silent servants. When he had to appear for formal ceremonies, he looked like a ghost. His eyes were empty. His face showed no expression. And he never looked at his daughter. Not once. Not ever. Because Lucia had her mother's silver hair. She had her mother's delicate features. She had her mother's soft voice. Looking at her was like looking at Seraphina's ghost. And Augustus couldn't bear it. So Lucia was given to a caretaker. Madame Prisca came from one of the oldest vampire families. She wore black dresses with high collars. She wore her dark hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. She had eyes like chips of ice. She walked through the halls like she owned them. She was over 300 years old. And she hated Lucia with every cold year of her immortal life. Madame Prisca never said it directly. She didn't have to. It was in the way she looked at the child. It was in the way she said half-breed like a curse word. It was in the way she refused to touch Lucia unless absolutely necessary. "Your human weakness disgusts me," she told Lucia once. The child was only 5 years old. "Your mother seduced our king with mortal tricks. You killed her with your tainted blood. You are a shame to this house." Lucia believed her. Why wouldn't she? She was a child. She didn't know any different. She grew up thinking she was a monster. She grew up thinking her father's absence was her punishment. She grew up thinking she deserved every cold word and every moment of neglect. For 10 years this was Lucia's life. 10 years in a fortress full of immortal servants who wouldn't meet her eyes. 10 years with a father who couldn't look at her. 10 years with a governess who treated her like a curse made flesh. And nobody noticed she was suffering. Nobody cared enough to look closely. Not until it was almost too late. Lucia was different from everyone else in the fortress. She was the only one who changed. The vampires around her stayed the same forever. They looked the same today as they looked 100 years ago. They would look the same 100 years from now. But Lucia grew. She grew taller. Her face changed. Her baby teeth fell out and new ones came in. She got hungry for real food, not just blood. She got tired when the sun went down. She needed sleep. She needed warmth. She needed things that immortal beings forgot existed. Nobody understood. How could they? The vampire servants were centuries old. They didn't remember being human. They didn't remember what it felt like to have a body that needed care. When Lucia said she was cold, they looked at her like she spoke a foreign language. When she said she was hungry, they offered her blood wine meant for adult vampires. It made her sick. When she cried, they stared at her tears like they were looking at something from another world. Madame Prisca was the worst. She treated Lucia's human needs like personal insults. "You are weak," she said. "You are exactly like your mother. Weak mortal flesh that doesn't belong here." When Lucia asked for help getting dressed, Madame Prisca called a servant. When Lucia asked for help with her lessons, Madame Prisca sighed like it caused her physical pain. And when Lucia asked for help brushing her hair, Madame Prisca looked at her with pure disgust. "I am a vampire of noble birth," she said. Her voice was ice. "I do not perform grooming tasks like a common servant. Your human weakness is your own burden to bear. Deal with it yourself." Lucia was 8 years old when the hair problem started. Her hair was long and silver, just like her mother's. It was beautiful, but it tangled easily. At first, Lucia tried to brush it herself every night before bed. She sat at her mirror and pulled the brush through the strands. Hurt. She wasn't strong enough. Her small hands couldn't grip the brush properly. The tangles pulled at her scalp until her eyes watered. But she kept trying. She had to. Nobody else would help her. Some nights she got so tired that she fell asleep with the brush still in her hand. Some nights she gave up after 10 minutes because her arms ached. Some nights she cried silently into her pillow because she couldn't understand why something so simple had to be so hard. The knots got worse. Small tangles turned into bigger tangles. The hair at the back of her head started to mat together. She tried to hide it. She pulled her hair forward over her shoulders. She wore it in loose styles that covered the matted parts. She stopped looking at the back of her head in the mirror because it scared her. Months passed. The matted section grew larger. Felt heavy. It pulled at her scalp. Sometimes it hurt so much that she couldn't sleep on her back anymore. She slept on her side with her head at a strange angle. Dark circles appeared under her violet eyes. Madame Prisca noticed. "You look terrible," she said. "Fix yourself. You're an embarrassment." But Lucia didn't know how to fix it anymore. The knots were too tight. The matted hair was like a thick rope attached to her skull. When she tried to pull a comb through it, the pain made her gasp. When she tried to cut it with small scissors from her desk, the blades wouldn't go through. The hair was too thick, too tangled, too much. Then the itching started. It was small at first. A little tickle at the back of her head where the matted hair touched her scalp. She scratched it. Felt better for a moment. Then it came back. She scratched again. The itch got stronger. Spread. Soon it wasn't just an itch. It was a burning feeling. A crawling feeling. Like something was moving under her skin. Lucia scratched until her fingernails had blood under them. She scratched until the skin on her scalp felt raw. She scratched in her sleep and woke up with her hands tangled in her hair. The pain got worse too. Sharp pains like needles pushing into her skull. Pains that made her squeeze her eyes shut in the middle of lessons. Pains that made her bite her lip until it bled. She told no one. How could she? This was her fault. This was her weakness. This was more proof that she didn't belong. The vampires didn't have problems like this. The vampires were perfect and cold and immortal. She was disgusting. She was rotting. She was everything Madame Prisca said she was. She was cursed. At night, alone in her chamber, Lucia touched the matted hair and felt something she couldn't explain. Movement. Warmth. Wetness. She pulled her hand away and saw dark stains on her fingers. She told herself it was nothing. She told herself it would go away. She told herself she deserved it anyway. This was her punishment for killing her mother. This was what happened to cursed blood. This was justice. And the thing in her hair kept growing. Olivia arrived at the fortress on a winter night with nothing but the clothes on her back. She had a bruise on her cheek that was turning yellow. She had cuts on her hands that were still healing. She had fear in her eyes that went deeper than her skin. She was running from something. Or someone. She never said what. And nobody asked. She was 28 years old. She looked older. That's what fear does to a person. It ages you from the inside out. She heard stories about the vampire fortress in the mountain. People in the villages below whispered about it. They said humans could seek sanctuary there if they were desperate enough. They said the vampires didn't care about mortal problems. They said if you worked for them and followed their rules, they would protect you. They said it was dangerous. They said some humans went in and never came out. But Olivia had nowhere else to go. Dangerous vampires seemed better than the dangerous humans she was running from. She climbed the mountain path in the dark. Her feet bled through her worn shoes. Her breath came out in white clouds. When she reached the gates, she almost turned back. The fortress looked like it was carved from darkness itself. But she rang the bell anyway. A vampire servant answered. He looked at her like she was a bug. "I need work," Olivia said. Her voice shook. "I'll do anything. I just need a place to stay." The servant stared at her for a long moment. Then he let her in. They gave her a room in the lowest level of the fortress. It was small and cold, but it had a lock on the door. That was all she needed. They gave her a uniform. A simple gray dress with a white apron. They gave her a list of duties. Cleaning, washing, polishing, carrying. Basic work that the vampire servants considered beneath them. Olivia didn't care. She scrubbed floors. She washed windows. She polished silver until her reflection looked back at her. And she watched. The fortress was strange. It was beautiful and cold at the same time. Like a tomb decorated with jewels. The vampire servants moved through the halls like ghosts. They didn't talk much. They didn't smile. They did their duties with the efficiency of machines. Olivia tried to be friendly at first. She said good morning. She asked questions. She got nothing back. Just blank stares. Just silence. After a while she understood. These creatures lived for centuries. They forgot how to care about anything. They forgot how to feel. Then she saw the child. A little girl with silver hair and violet eyes. She moved through the halls like a shadow. She kept her head down. She never made noise. The vampire servants walked past her like she didn't exist. Some of them looked at her with something worse than hatred. They looked at her with disgust. Like she was something dirty. Something wrong. Olivia asked another human servant about her. The woman was older, had worked there for 15 years. That's the king's daughter, she whispered. Half vampire, half human. Poor thing. Her mother died giving birth to her. The king can't stand to look at her. The vampires hate her because she's not pure blood. Stay away from her. It's easier that way. But Olivia couldn't stop noticing her. The child ate alone. She studied alone. She walked through the gardens alone. She was 10 years old and she moved like she was trying to disappear. It broke Olivia's heart. She knew what it felt like to be unwanted. She knew what it felt like to be invisible. She started to say hello when she passed the girl in the halls. The child looked startled every time. Like kindness was a foreign language. Then Madame Priska called her into her office. The vampire governess sat behind a desk made of dark wood. Her face was like carved marble. Beautiful and lifeless. I have observed you, Madame Priska said. Her voice could cut glass. I have seen you looking at the half-breed child. I will say this once. Do not interact with her. Do not speak to her. Do not acknowledge her existence. Olivia felt anger rise in her chest. She's just a little girl. She is an abomination, Madame Priska said. Each word was sharp. She is the creature that killed our queen. Her tainted blood is a stain on this noble house. She is here because the king is too weak to dispose of his mistake. But you will not complicate matters with your mortal sentimentality. You are here to work, not to make friends. Do you understand? Olivia looked at the vampire's cold eyes. She thought about the little girl walking alone through empty halls. She thought about staying silent like everyone else. She thought about minding her own business. Then she thought about all the times people looked away from her pain. All the times nobody helped. All the times she was alone. I understand, Olivia said. But it was a lie. She understood perfectly. She understood that everyone in this fortress was failing that child. And she decided right then that she wouldn't be one of them. Olivia waited 3 days. She watched Lucia's patterns. The child went to the garden every night after her lessons. Always alone. Always to the same stone bench under the old willow tree. She sat there and looked at the moon like she was waiting for it to tell her secrets. On the 3rd night, Olivia followed her. She brought something special. A blood orange from the market in the village below. She bought it with her first week's wages. It was expensive. She didn't care. The moon was full and bright. It turned everything silver. Lucia sat on the bench with her hands folded in her lap. She looked like a ghost. A sad little ghost in a white dress. Hello, Olivia said softly. She didn't want to scare her. Lucia jumped anyway. Her violet eyes went wide. She looked around like she was checking for witnesses. It's okay, Olivia said. It's just me. My name is Olivia. I'm new here. You shouldn't talk to me, Lucia whispered. Her voice was so quiet, like she forgot how to use it. Madame Prisca says nobody should talk to me. Well, Madame Prisca isn't here, Olivia said. She sat down on the bench, leaving space between them. And I'm not very good at following rules I don't agree with. She held out the blood orange. I brought you something. Have you ever had one of these? Lucia stared at the fruit like it was treasure. She shook her head. We don't eat mortal food here. Just blood wine and meat. And I don't like blood wine. It makes me feel sick. That's because you're half human, Olivia said. Your body needs different things. Here, try this. She peeled the orange. The smell filled the air, sweet and sharp at the same time. She pulled it into sections and handed one to Lucia. The child hesitated. Her hand reached out slowly, like she expected it to be pulled away. When her fingers touched the fruit, she looked surprised. Like she couldn't believe this was real. She put it in her mouth. Her eyes closed. For a moment she looked peaceful. When she opened her eyes again, they were wet. It's good, she whispered. It tastes like sunshine. Olivia's heart broke a little. This child was so hungry for normal things. For kindness. For someone to see her. You can have the rest, she said, putting the orange sections in Lucia's small hands. I have more in my room. I'll bring you one tomorrow if you want. Lucia smiled. It was the saddest, most beautiful smile Olivia ever saw. Like flowers growing in a graveyard. Really? You'll come back. I'll come back, Olivia promised. She reached out to brush a strand of silver hair from Lucia's face. The child flinched so hard she almost fell off the bench. She jerked her head away with a gasp. Her hand flew up to protect her head. Fear flashed across her face. I'm sorry, Olivia said quickly. I won't touch you. Promise. I'm sorry. Lucia was shaking. It's not your fault. My head hurts sometimes. I don't like when things touch it. Olivia noticed things then. The way Lucia held her head at a strange angle. The way her hair fell forward, always forward, covering the back. The way she kept very still like movement caused pain. Something was wrong. But she didn't push. Not yet. Okay, she said gently. No touching. Just talking. Is that okay? Lucia nodded. She ate another piece of orange. The fear left her face slowly. They sat in the moonlight and talked about small things. Olivia told her about the village below. About the market. About the flowers that grew in the valley. Lucia listened like every word was magic. She asked questions in her quiet voice. What do the village children do? What games do they play? What do normal families look like? The next night, Olivia came back with another orange. The night after that, she brought a book of fairy tales. The night after that, she brought stories about her own childhood. Lucia started to wait for her. Started to smile more. Started to talk a little louder. They met in secret. Their own small rebellion against the cold fortress. Against the rules. Against the loneliness. Olivia saw what others refused to see. Not a cursed half-breed. Not an abomination. Just a lonely child who needed someone to care. And Olivia decided she would be that someone. No matter what Madame Prisca said. No matter what the rules were. But she kept noticing things. The way Lucia never turned her back. The way she winced when she moved too quickly. The strange smell, faint but there like something rotting under perfume. And she wondered what this child was hiding. Olivia heard the crying through the stone walls. It was past midnight. Most of the fortress was silent. But she knew that sound. She knew what it meant when someone cried like that. Quiet and muffled like they were trying to hide even their pain. She followed the sound to Lucia's chamber. The door was closed but not locked. She knocked softly. Lucia. It's me. Can I come in? The crying stopped. Silence. Then a small voice. Go away. Please. Olivia opened the door anyway. Lucia was curled up on her bed in the dark. Only one candle burned on the nightstand. The child's face was wet with tears. Her hands were tangled in her hair. She looked up at Olivia with desperate eyes. "I told you to go away," she whispered. But there was no anger in it. A shame. "I know," Olivia said. She closed the door behind her. "But I'm not very good at doing what I'm told. Remember." She sat on the edge of the bed. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Lucia shook her head. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "I can't tell you. It's too horrible. You'll think I'm disgusting. You'll leave like everyone else." "I won't leave," Olivia said. Her voice was steady. "I promise. Nothing you say will make me leave. Tell me what's wrong." Lucia's voice broke. "Something's wrong with me. Something's been wrong for a long time. I feel something moving in my hair. Like it's alive. And it hurts all the time now. My head hurts so much I can't sleep. And there's a smell. I try to wash it but it won't go away. I think I'm rotting from the inside like a corpse. I think the curse that killed my mother is finally coming for me too." Olivia's blood went cold. "What do you mean you feel something moving?" "In the back," Lucia whispered. She turned slightly, showing the back of her head for the first time. "In the tangled part. Can't see it. Can't reach it. But I feel it. Things crawling. Things biting. I'm cursed. I'm dying. And I deserve it." "Stop," Olivia said firmly. "You don't deserve anything bad. You're a child. Me look. Please. Let me see what's happening." Lucia hesitated. Fear and hope fought in her eyes. Finally she nodded. She turned her back to Olivia and moved her hair aside. Olivia picked up the candle and brought it closer. What she saw made her stomach turn. The back of Lucia's head was covered in matted hair. It wasn't just tangled. It was fused together in a thick mass. The hair was discolored. Dark in some places. Wet in others. And it was moving. Not like wind. Like something underneath was alive. "I need to look closer," Olivia said. Her hands shook but she kept her voice calm. She carefully parted some of the matted hair. The smell hit her. Sweet and rotten at the same time. Under the candlelight she saw them. Small creatures. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. They were pale and bloated. Almost transparent. She could see dark liquid inside their bodies. Blood. They were attached to Lucia's scalp. Some were burrowed into small wounds. The skin was inflamed and infected. Some areas looked raw. Olivia pulled her hand back. She felt sick. She felt angry. She felt a rage so deep it burned. "Lucia," she said carefully. "How long has this been like this?" "I don't know," Lucia whispered. "A year. Maybe more. Started small. Just tangles. Then it got worse. I tried to fix it myself but I couldn't. And nobody else would help. Madame Priska said my human problems were my burden. I just lived with it." "Is it bad?" "It's bad," Olivia said honestly. "These are parasites. They're feeding on you. They're making you sick. How are you even still conscious? This must be agony." "It hurts," Lucia admitted. "It hurts all the time. But I thought I deserved it. For killing my mother. For being cursed. For being weak." Olivia wanted to scream. She wanted to find Madame Priska and shake her. She wanted to storm through the fortress and demand answers. But right now this child needed her. "Listen to me," she said. She moved to face Lucia. "You are not cursed. You are not weak. You are a little girl who has been neglected. This is not your fault. Do you understand? None of this is your fault." "But what do I do?" Lucia's voice was so small. "We tell your father," Olivia said. "Right now." "No." Lucia grabbed her arm. "He can't see me like this. He already hates me. If he sees how disgusting I am." "He doesn't hate you," Olivia said. "And he needs to see this. He needs to know what's been happening to his daughter. This ends tonight." Olivia left Lucia in her chamber and walked through the fortress like a woman possessed. Her fear was gone. Her caution was gone. All that remained was fury. Pure, burning fury at every vampire who walked these halls and did nothing. At every servant who looked away. At the king who abandoned his own child. The throne room doors were closed. 2 vampire guards stood outside. They were tall and ancient and deadly. They looked at Olivia like she was an insect. "The king is in council," one said. His voice was cold. "No interruptions." "Move," Olivia said. "Mortal, you forget your place." Olivia didn't wait. She pushed past them and threw open the doors. They were heavy, made of iron and wood that was centuries old. They shouldn't have moved. But rage gave her strength. The doors crashed open with a sound like thunder. The throne room fell silent. 20 vampires stood around a long table covered in maps and documents. They all turned to stare. At the head of the table sat Augustus Nero, the vampire king. He wore black robes trimmed with silver. His face was pale and perfect like carved ice. His eyes were empty. He looked at Olivia like she was nothing, like she didn't exist. "Who dares?" Madame Prisca started. She stood near the king's right hand. "Your daughter is dying," Olivia screamed. Her voice echoed off the stone walls. "She's dying and you're sitting here discussing borders and blood taxes like she doesn't exist." The vampires gasped. Hissed. Some moved toward her with murder in their eyes. Augustus held up one hand. They all froze. "Remove this human," he said quietly. "She's hysterical." "I'm not hysterical," Olivia said. She walked toward the throne. Every vampire in the room tensed. A mortal approaching the king uninvited was unthinkable, punishable by death. She didn't care. "I'm the only one in this entire fortress who has eyes to see. Your daughter has parasites eating into her skull. She's been suffering for over a year. She cries herself to sleep every night. She thinks she's cursed. She thinks she deserves to die. And you don't even know because you can't stand to look at her." "You know nothing of what I can and cannot stand," Augustus said. His voice was ice. "You are a servant. You've been here barely a month. You don't speak to me of my daughter." "Then who will?" Olivia shouted. "Who will tell you that she's sick? That she's in pain? That she's alone? You hide from your grief while your child suffers. You're a coward." The room exploded. Vampires moved toward her from all sides. "She dies for this," someone shouted. "Tear her apart." Madame Prisca's face was twisted with rage. But Olivia stood her ground. She looked at Augustus. Only at Augustus. "Come see her," she said. Her voice broke. "Please. Just come see what's been done to your child. And then kill me if you want. But see her first." Something flickered in the king's empty eyes. Something that might have been pain. "I cannot," he whispered. "You can," Olivia said. "You just won't. 'Cause it's easier to hide. Easier to pretend she doesn't exist. But she does exist. And she looks just like her mother. And she's dying." Olivia walked up to the throne. She grabbed Augustus's cold hand. The vampires in the room hissed. Touching the king was forbidden. It was death. "Come with me," Olivia said. "Now." She pulled. Augustus was 1,000 years old. He had strength that could crush stone. He could have killed her with a thought. But he stood. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was shame. Maybe somewhere deep inside. He still had a piece of his heart left. He let this mortal woman pull him from his throne. He let her drag him through the halls while his court watched in stunned silence. They reached Lucia's chamber. The door was still open. Lucia sat on the bed exactly where Olivia left her. She looked up when they entered. Her eyes went wide when she saw her father. She hadn't been this close to him in years. "Papa," she whispered. Augustus stared at his daughter. Really looked at her for the first time in a decade. She had Serafina's face. Serafina's delicate features. Serafina's silver hair. But that beautiful hair was matted and dark with infection. The child's face was pale and thin. Her eyes had dark circles under them. She looked fragile. She looked sick. She looked terrified. "Show him," Olivia said gently to Lucia. Show him what's been happening. Lucia hesitated. Then slowly she turned around. She moved her hair aside. The candlelight showed everything. The mass of tangled hair. The movement underneath. The infected skin. The parasites feeding on his daughter's blood. Augustus made a sound. Not a word. Just a sound of pure anguish. He staggered backward. His legs gave out. The vampire king fell to his knees on the stone floor. Serafina, he whispered. Then louder. What have I done? He looked at Lucia with horror and grief and guilt all mixed together. What have I done to you? Lucia started crying. I'm sorry, Papa. I'm so sorry. I tried to be good. I tried not to be weak. I'm sorry I killed Mama. I'm sorry I'm cursed. No, Augustus choked out. He crawled forward on his knees. No, my child. You didn't kill her. You're not cursed. I'm the one who failed. I failed your mother. Failed you. I failed you both. His voice broke completely. Forgive me. Please forgive me. Augustus summoned the healer within minutes. Her name was Celestine. She was ancient even by vampire standards. She had pale hair that reached the floor and eyes like silver coins. She came to Lucia's chamber carrying a wooden case filled with bottles and instruments. She examined Lucia's head in silence. Her face showed nothing. When she finished, she turned to Augustus with a grave expression. Blood mites, she said. A severe infestation. They've been feeding for at least 18 months. Perhaps longer. They've burrowed deep into the scalp. The infection is extensive. Can you cure her? Augustus asked. His voice was desperate. Olivia had never heard a vampire sound desperate before. There is a treatment, Celestine said. A burning potion. It kills the parasites and cauterizes the wounds. But, she looked at Lucia. The child is half human. The potion is made for pure vampire blood. For her it would be like drinking fire. Her mortal half cannot withstand it. It could kill her faster than the mites. No, Augustus said. There must be another way. There isn't, Celestine said. Her voice was final. I'm sorry, my king. If she were full vampire this would be simple. But she's not. Her mixed blood makes traditional treatments impossible. Then we'll find a non-traditional treatment, Olivia said. Everyone turned to look at her. She stepped forward. What if we don't use the potion? What if we remove them manually? One by one. Celestine shook her head. That would take hours. The pain would be extraordinary. Even a grown vampire would struggle to endure it. A child. I can endure it, Lucia said quietly. They all looked at her. She sat on the bed with her small hands clenched into fists. If it means getting better. If it means Papa doesn't have to be ashamed of me anymore. I can be strong. Augustus made a choke sound. I was never ashamed of you. I was ashamed of myself. But yes, if there's any chance we take it. Whatever she can endure, we'll help her through. Celestine looked between them. Finally she nodded. We'll need mortal medicines as well. Herbs to numb pain. Salves to prevent infection. Things I don't normally use. I know some, Olivia said. My mother was a healer in the village. I can help. They worked together. Celestine provided vampire magic and silver instruments blessed under moonlight. Olivia brought herbs from the kitchen stores. Willow bark for pain, lavender for calming, honey and garlic for the wounds. They mixed mortal knowledge with immortal power. They created something new. Something that might work. The procedure began at midnight. They sat Lucia in a chair by the window where moonlight streamed in. Celestine gave her a leather strap. Bite down on this when it hurts, she said gently. It's all right to cry. It's all right to scream if you need to. Pain doesn't make you weak. Lucia took the leather in her mouth. Augustus knelt beside her chair. He took her small hand in both of his. His hands were cold and pale. Hers were warm, half mortal. I'm here, he whispered. I won't leave you. Not ever again. Squeeze my hand when it hurts. Squeeze as hard as you need to. Celestine began. She carefully separated the matted hair section by section. Each movement made Lucia flinch. When she started removing the parasites with silver tweezers, Lucia bit down hard on the leather. Tears ran down her face, but she didn't scream. She squeezed her father's hand instead. Squeezed until her knuckles turned white. Augustus watched everything. Every parasite removed. Every wound cleaned. Every time his daughter's face twisted in pain. He whispered to her constantly, "You're so brave. So strong. Just like your mother. I'm so sorry. I'm here now. I'm here." Hours passed. Olivia helped hold Lucia steady when the pain got too bad. She wiped the child's tears. She spoke in a calm voice about things that didn't matter. Stories about the village. About flowers. About anything to distract from the agony. Celestine worked with careful precision. Each mite removed. Each wound treated with silver salve that glowed faintly in the moonlight. Each healing spell whispered in an ancient language. Lucia trembled. She cried. She squeezed her father's hand so hard she left marks even on immortal skin. But she didn't ask them to stop. She endured. Finally, as dawn approached, Celestine sat back. "It's done," she said. "Every parasite removed. Every wound cleaned and sealed with healing magic. The infection should clear in a few days." Lucia's eyes were glazed with exhaustion and pain. Augustus lifted her gently and carried her to the bed. She was so light, so small. He laid her down carefully and pulled the blankets over her. "Sleep now," he whispered. "You're safe. I promise you're safe." Lucia's eyes fluttered closed. "Don't go," she whispered. "I won't," Augustus said. He sat on the edge of the bed and kept holding her hand. "I'll be right here when you wake up. And every day after. I swear it." He watched her sleep. This child who had his wife's face and his own eyes. This precious piece of Serafina that still lived and breathed. He had wasted 10 years drowning in grief while his daughter drowned in loneliness. But that ended now. That ended tonight. Lucia slept for 2 days. When she woke, Augustus was there. Just like he promised. He sat in a chair beside her bed with a book in his hands. When her eyes opened, he smiled. It was a small smile. Uncertain. Like he forgot how. "Good morning," he said softly. "You stayed," Lucia whispered. Her voice was hoarse. "I stayed," Augustus confirmed. "And I'll stay as long as you need me." Recovery was slow. Celestine came every day to check the wounds and apply fresh salves. The infections began to clear. The pain faded from constant agony to dull aching. Lucia's scalp was tender and raw, but it was healing. Small patches of new hair started to grow, silver and soft like baby bird feathers. Olivia brought her meals. Real food. Bread and soup and fruit. Things a half-human child needed. Augustus read to her. Stories from old books. Stories about heroes and magic and happy endings. Sometimes Lucia fell asleep while he read. He kept reading anyway. Just so she'd hear his voice and know she wasn't alone. On the 7th day, Augustus called a gathering in the throne room. Every vampire of importance was summoned. Every servant was required to attend. The hall filled with immortal beings who whispered and wondered. Madame Prisca stood near the front. Her face was calm, confident. She thought she was untouchable. She thought her noble blood protected her. Augustus sat on the obsidian throne. But this time Lucia sat beside him. She wore a simple dress. Her head was wrapped in soft bandages. She looked small and fragile, but her violet eyes were clear. Olivia stood behind her chair. A silent guardian. "I have called you here to witness justice," Augustus said. His voice filled the hall, cold and sharp as broken glass. "For 10 years I failed my daughter. I abandoned her to grief. I let my pain blind me to hers. That failure is mine to carry. But there is another failure. Another crime that must be answered." He looked at Madame Prisca. Step forward. Madame Prisca walked to the base of the throne. She showed no fear. Yes, my king. You were entrusted with my daughter's care, Augustus said. Each word was precise. Cutting. You were given authority over her education, her well-being, her safety. For 10 years she was in your charge. Tell me, Madame Prisca, did you care for her? I educated her according to vampire tradition, Madame Prisca said. Her chin lifted. I prepared her to take her place in this court. Did you help her when she needed it? Augustus asked. Madame Prisca's eyes flickered. She had servants. Did you help her? Augustus's voice cracked like a whip. When she asked for help brushing her hair. When she was struggling with basic needs that a child cannot manage alone. Did you help her? Silence. Madame Prisca's mask began to crack. Those were mortal concerns. Beneath my station. I am a vampire of noble. She is my daughter. Augustus roared. The throne room shook. Candles flickered. Vampires stepped back in fear. She is the princess of this realm. And you treated her like she was nothing. You let her suffer for 18 months. Parasites ate into her skull while you did nothing. She begged for help and you called her weakness. She was a child in your care and you failed her. Madame Prisca's face went pale. My king, I only. Silence, Augustus said. I strip you of your titles. I strip you of your position. I banish you from this realm forever. You have 1 hour to leave my kingdom. If you are found within my borders after that, you will be destroyed. Leave now. And never return. Madame Prisca stared at him in shock. Then at Lucia. The child met her eyes without flinching. Madame Prisca opened her mouth to protest. But no words came. She turned and walked from the throne room. Her footsteps echoed on the marble. Then she was gone. Augustus turned to Olivia. You saved my daughter's life. You showed more courage than anyone in this hall. You will be rewarded. Gold. Land. Whatever you wish. Name it and it's yours. Olivia shook her head. I don't want gold, my king. I just want to stay. Lucia wants me. I'd like to be her companion. Her friend. Her protector if she'll have me. Lucia reached back and took Olivia's hand. Please stay, she whispered. Please. Then it's settled, Augustus said. Olivia will remain as Lucia's guardian and companion. She will be treated with the respect she deserves. And there will be changes in this fortress. Windows will be opened. Human servants will be valued. My daughter will be acknowledged as the princess she is. This court will learn that strength isn't measured by immortal blood alone. It's measured by courage, by kindness, by love. The vampires bowed. Some looked uncomfortable, some looked ashamed, but they bowed. That night, Augustus came to Lucia's chamber at bedtime. He carried a silver brush. May I? He asked quietly. Lucia nodded. He sat behind her and very gently brushed the parts of her hair that had regrown. His touch was careful, tender. I'm learning, he said. Learning to be your father. I should have learned 10 years ago. But I'm learning now. That's okay, Papa, Lucia said softly. We can learn together. And slowly, the fortress that was built on stone and shadow began to fill with light. 1 year later, the great hall looked different. Sunlight streamed through windows that had been sealed shut for decades. Flowers decorated the long tables. White roses and silver lilies. Candles burned with warm light instead of cold flame. Music played. Real music with instruments and laughter mixed in. The hall was filled with guests. Vampire nobles in their dark formal clothes. Human families from the village below in their best dresses and suits. Children ran between the tables. Some had pale skin and sharp teeth. Some had rosy cheeks and mortal blood. They played together like it was the most natural thing in the world. Today was Lucia's 11th birthday. The first birthday celebration held in the fortress in over a decade. The first time humans were invited as honored guests instead of servants. The first time the realm saw what happened when walls came down and hearts opened up. Lucia stood in the center of it all. She wore a dress the color of moonlight. Her silver hair flowed down her back in perfect waves. Long and healthy and beautiful. Just like her mother's. She laughed as a human girl named Elena pulled her toward the dessert table. "You have to try the chocolate cake," Elena insisted. "My mama made it special for you." A young vampire boy named Marcus joined them. "The blood tarts are better," he said with a grin. Then he paused and looked embarrassed. "Sorry. I forgot humans think that's weird." "It's okay," Elena said. He shrugged. "My papa drinks wine that smells like feet. Everyone's family is weird." Lucia laughed. Real laugh. The sound filled the hall like bells. Augustus stood near the throne watching his daughter. Olivia appeared beside him. She wore a gray dress with silver embroidery. Her hair was pinned up with pearl clips. "She's happy," Olivia said softly. "She is," Augustus agreed. His voice held wonder. Like he still couldn't quite believe it. "I almost lost her. I almost lost this." "But you didn't," Olivia said. "You found your way back. Both of you did." The celebration continued for hours. There were games and music and too much food. Lucia danced with her father. She danced with Olivia. She danced with her new friends until her feet hurt and her face glowed with joy. When the moon rose high and guests began to leave, Lucia hugged each one goodbye. Human and vampire alike. She thanked them for coming. She promised to visit the village soon. She waved until the last carriage disappeared down the mountain path. Later that night, Lucia sat at her dressing table in her chamber. She was tired, but the good kind of tired. The kind that comes from a day filled with happiness. Augustus knocked on her door. "May I come in?" "Always, Papa," Lucia said. He carried the silver brush. Their nightly ritual. He sat behind her and began to brush her hair with gentle strokes. The moonlight came through the open window and turned everything silver. Each stroke was careful, loving. A promise that he would never abandon her again. "You had a good day," he said. "The best day," Lucia confirmed. She watched him in the mirror. "Papa, will you tell me about Mama?" Augustus paused. For a moment, old pain flickered across his face. But then it softened into something else. Something warm. "What would you like to know?" "Everything," Lucia said. "What she liked. What made her laugh. How you met. I want to know her." Augustus smiled. A real smile. "She loved roses," he began. His voice was gentle. Full of memory but not drowning in grief anymore. White roses especially. She said they reminded her of moonlight. "We met in a garden actually. She was picking flowers and didn't know she'd wandered onto vampire territory. I was supposed to frighten her away. But when she saw me, she didn't scream. She just smiled and offered me a rose." Lucia listened with wide eyes. "What happened then?" "I fell in love," Augustus said simply. He continued brushing her hair. "She was fearless. Kind. She saw goodness in things others feared. She believed people could change. That love could bridge any distance. She was right. You're proof of that." "Do I really look like her?" Lucia asked quietly. "You have her face," Augustus said. "Her hair. Her smile. But you're your own person too. You have her courage and kindness. But you also have a strength that's entirely yours. You survived things that would break most people. You kept your heart soft even when the world was hard. Your mother would be so proud of who you're becoming." "I know I am." Lucia's eyes filled with happy tears. "I wish I could have known her." "You do know her," Augustus said. "She's in every kind thing you do. Every time you make a friend. Every time you choose love over fear. She lives in you. And as long as I'm here, I'll tell you stories about her. As many as you want. I promise." Olivia watched from the doorway. She didn't interrupt. Just stood there smiling. Watching this father and daughter heal together. Watching love rebuild what grief had broken. Augustus finished brushing Lucia's hair. He braided it loosely for sleep. When he was done, Lucia turned and hugged him. "I love you, Papa. I love you too, my precious girl," he whispered. "More than all the stars in the sky. More than all my years of life. You are my greatest treasure. Always." He tucked her into bed, kissed her forehead, watched her eyes grow heavy with sleep. "Good night, Lucia." "Good night, Papa," she murmured. "See you in the morning." "Every morning," he promised. "For the rest of our lives." Lucia fell asleep smiling. Loved, healed. The fortress that once felt like a tomb now felt like home. And in the moonlight streaming through the window, if you looked closely, you might have seen a gentle presence. A woman with silver hair and a smile full of love. Watching over her daughter. Watching over them all. Serafina's legacy wasn't death. It was this. A family learning to love again. A kingdom learning that bloodlines don't determine worth. A child who survived darkness and found light. The story that began with horror ended with hope. And sometimes that's the most powerful magic of all.